Hello, everyone. This is Varsha, and you are watching the series of success stories brought to you by Indian Achievers Forum. So, once again, we are here with you all to discuss the success story of one more achiever of our, and this time we have with us Mr. Rushab Jhaveri, who also goes by RJ. As a digital transformation leader, RJ possesses extensive experience as a strategic business partner in the IT service industry. He has a proven track record to drive business turnarounds and growth for the various clients he has worked for in his career. With extensive expertise encompassing product strategy, SaaS, and technology, RJ embarked on his entrepreneurial journey in 2020 with Recipe Cup as an ideation at the UC Berkeley Haas School of Business while pursuing his executive program in management. At IAF, Respika was nominated in several award categories and won the Most Promising Startup of the Year award. Let's hear more from RJ as we dive into more details about him and his startup with Respika. But before that, let's quickly have a look at a very small video telling you about what we actually do.
Indian Achievers Forum is driven by a full-fledged advisory board. The board consists of experienced personalities who have excelled in their respective careers. Together, the forum organizes conferences, events, workshops, exhibitions, trade shows, and B2B initiatives in India as well as abroad. Where there is passion, there is achievement. And where there is achievement, there is Indian Achievers Forum.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Varsha. How are you?
All good, sir. Thank you so very much. So, sir, before we actually start the conversation, I'm very keen to know that how did you actually land up to the idea of starting up with this business of yours, and also
Sure,
what was the purpose or mission behind this?
sure. Thank you for asking that question, Varsha. And just for a whole lot of our viewers to understand, right? I'm a huge foodie, and food is something which comes as a natural tangent. That I kind of look into and that I actually love exploring. Having said regarding Recipe Cup, the ideation came to me a few years back when I was traveling to India. As always, I used to explore a lot of street foods and just talk to a lot of street vendors and just ask them how's things going on and what's new, what are the sort of trends in food, and what are some of the new things that you guys are kind of making or exploring. And the one thing that was a stark reality, and that I kind of realized over some of my other travels, was that a whole lot of these vendors were struggling with their core business itself, which is they were only able to sell their foods on the streets, and the flavors of the streets were slowly changing. The flavors that I used to explore back in when I was in India, when I was growing up, were very different to what the flavors were a few years back, and even now. I mean, the flavors are evolving, and they were slowly seeing their markets diminishing. With that said, I started wondering, what if there's a way we, from a tech standpoint, can help them? We can bring them, all together into this industry 4.0 era that we, keep talking about, but actually, not trickling down the benefits of that transition over to these, very very basic people, right? People who do not understand, technology at large. And that's how I think Recipe Cup began, at the heart of it. Of course, there were a few other reasons as well. I always wanted to do something, with food, with tech, and just kind of see things evolve on that front. And this kind of proved to be a perfect transition for me.
Amazing, sir. So now, nothing comes that easy to us, and I'm pretty sure that you must have also faced certain sort of challenges in your professional journey. So if you can
Right.
please talk about those challenges with us.
Sure thing, sure thing. I think, as the founder and CEO of Recipe Cup, I believe in our mission here and vision as well. I also am keenly aware of the obstacles that we face on this journey, on this path of success, right? And kind of getting into an understanding of what the company believes, what Recipe Cup does believe are some of its biggest risks, and how can we help evaluate those risks to navigate and put ourselves ahead of the curve, right? These risks are, I would say, different in shapes and sizes. However, we do believe, I think, that scalability, uh, product execution, and emerging competition in this area are some of our most intrinsic and basic challenges that we face at the moment for our success. Having said, most startups, they say, are doomed to fail right from inception, but even kind of as the majority of those who succeed, they invariably overcome these hurdles due to their sheer grit and determination. And I think that's how we are going to solve the challenge that is in front of us. Having said, I think one of the aspect with which the people who have survived, and the people who have, from a startup scenario, that have flourished, they have done so with optimism at the heart of it. So I think any challenge requires optimism to solve, a purpose driven mission that is kind of backed by solid, realistic market understanding. And I think that's exactly how we are going to build our resiliency, and the plan to overcome some of these hurdles.
So, what exactly are the product and services that Recipe Cup is providing to people out there?
Sure. Before I jump into products and services, right, I would rather actually go over some of our problem statements, which we have converted into opportunities. I think that's how I look at it. The problem statements. Today, there is no centralized format of actually getting a meal kit on demand. There are some emerging competition who does serve home cooked food, but no dedicated platform that only caters to small sellers, very home based sellers. And that's exactly where Recipe Cup comes in. We cater exclusively to home chefs. Two, we can get you the on demand meal kits that you crave without actually getting you into any sort of subscription models. Three, if you crave for certain ingredients and not the actual meal kit or a meal, you have the option to buy those ingredients right on the platform itself. Our USP feature that I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about, is going to be recipe monetization. We call them we call it recipe monetization, but at the heart of it, it's actually engaging the services of a virtual chef. I mean, think about it. You might have a party coming up. You might need help curating your dinner table, or you might even need some help around understanding what alternatives could you cook with. These are all areas where a community needs to be built between the chefs and the customers. I think that's how we are going to start discussing these problems, and these are the very functionalities that I think Recipe Cup has to offer you.
Amazing, sir. So now I would like to know that what is your niche within a niche going to be?
I think the recipe monetization that I just spoke about is the niche within the niche that we absolutely consider to be our groundbreaking, functionality, a groundbreaking innovation, right? The reason being, today, sitting in US or sitting in India, I think there are very few ways that you can actually explore the global flavors of the world. The global flavors being that, per se, sitting in India, you want to explore Spanish cuisine. You don't find a way to do so without actually going to a kind of a Spanish restaurant, maybe, or trying a Spanish food yourself. But again, what is the trusted source where you go to get help, right? Where you go to get an authentic Spanish recipe. This is exactly where recipe monetization comes in. You can kind of explore a Spanish chef from a different region altogether, to kind of explore the cuisine more in detail, or even just casually know, I mean, talk to them and understand, what are some of the foundational elements of Spanish cuisine. I mean, what do you cook with, what are the ingredients, what are the spices. It's all about building the right type of conversation versus producing the right solution. I think if we build the right type of conversation, the solution comes on automatically.
Very rightly said, sir. So now moving ahead, what does success look like for the company, and also what further plans are you having for the company in the upcoming years? If you can please discuss those with us a bit.
Sure. I think at at a growing company like ours, right, there are endless decisions to be made that will affect our course of the company and its eventual outcome, right? While you are never able to get a crystal clear glimpse into the future, understanding the general direction, the general trend setting, or the general pivot that a market is taking, is very critical for us as the founders to kind of understand where should we embark next, what is the market that we should go on to next. I mean, a classic example being, I set out with establishing Recipe Cup first in the US and then to the rest of the world. Turns out we had to pivot midway through our implementation, that we will actually look at India as our first go to market before exploring any other markets. The reason being, a population of a billion, what could go wrong, right? With that said, that's what for us is very critical at this juncture. That we would like to kind of understand where we need to be in the 5 years. I think we need to still sit and kind of brainstorm where what does scalability is defined for us, what does success look like for us, what is the future runway looking like, and I think that's exactly what our future plans are going to be based on.
And I wish you all the success for all these plans of
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you.
Right, sir. So now talking about this Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, like though this concept has been there within us since very, very long, but this pandemic situation has made us all realize how important it is to become self-reliant. So what do
Mhm.
you have to say on this concept, and also how is your company working towards this?
I think Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? I think when I first heard about it, I felt a certain um, empowered feeling that we are kind of giving to our home chefs. We are actually empowering them to become Atmanirbhar. I mean, think about it. These are people, Varsha, that you and me will typically not even look at, or we won't even know that these are actually chefs. These are your housewives. These are your folks who are sitting at home with amazing flavors to share with you, but just do not have a medium to do so. This was the very heart of our origins, right? This was a very kind of the how I put it is like the humble beginnings on how we began, and I think this is exactly our kind of contribution towards the Atmanirbhar mission at large. I think we are making every home chef associating with us Atmanirbhar, and I think we are just extremely proud that we are kind of partnering up with this kind of a movement and mission of the Indian government. So yeah.
All right, sir. So now moving ahead, so apart from being a winner of Indian Achievers Award, Recipe Cup was also recently voted as the number 2 capstone startup project across UC Berkeley, Haas School of Business. So, what are your feelings on this achievement of yours?
I think we for sure did not expect that. We did not expect to be even in the top three at UC Berkeley, and across the entire Berkeley ecosystem to kind of be voted as the second best startup ideation. Right? I mean, there are a whole lot of ideations out there which are, I feel, a lot more competent, a lot more better than ours. But I felt absolutely that the winning validated our idea, our implementation so far, our approach towards that implementation, and I think that win kind of was like a shot in the arm, right? That hey, you guys are headed on the right track. Keep moving with it, keep chugging with it, and I think you guys will be at some place. And I think that's how I would like to frame this question, and then the answer towards it. It wasn't like a necessary feeling of hey, we won something, but more of a feeling that wow, like what we thought has been validated by some of the better judges than us, and some of the more better market experts than us. And that certainly felt amazing. So yeah.
And I once again congratulate you on these
Thank you.
achievements of yours.
Thank you.
Right, sir. So now, if you can please tell us a bit about what are the current runways and also what are the future funding plans for you?
um I would start with an analogy here, if that makes sense. A plane is in the process of taking off and is picking up speed. As it prepares to launch itself into that bright blue open sky, right? If the runway is too short, the plane will come to a halting, kind of a stop. If the runway is too long, then it would be a waste of land and resources and the energies that the pilots would put on, taking off that plane. This is exactly what our current runway looks like, and what our future plans on funding looks like. Having said, a startup runway is more like the number of months that a company can operate before it runs out of money. Having said, it's one of the most important calculations for an early stage startup like ours. As a tech startup founder, right, it is pertinent to get these calculations right in order to make sure that the company's success is warranted. Having said, I we have been in a happy spot with the kind of the financing that we have received, the fundings that we have received so far. I think the way I like to call it is, we did have a pre-seed round, kind of completed. I wouldn't want to divulge the amounts up here. I think that there's going to be a more like a public forum, and we are just not sure yet on who the potential other investors we are going to be talking to. But definitely, we did end our pre-seed stage round on a very happy note. We are moving along towards raising a strong seed stage, in a couple months from now, and hopefully, we that the fundings that we'll receive are going to be at par with the scale we need, with the volume that we need to operate at. And again, it's less about the valuations. I think I care very less about what is the valuation that we are going to be at. It's more about going to be about the money that we need to take off, and the equity that we need to that we are more like willing to dilute for that money, to receive that money. So I think that's going to be a bit, that's going to require a bit more discussions and deliberations on our end. And yeah, so things are moving along in the right pace, in the right direction.
Right, sir. So now, before concluding our lovely session, what social contribution do you aim to make with Recipe Cup in the upcoming years?
Sure. Thank you for asking this question as well. I think creation of conversations, creation of community, these are all very close to my heart, and I certainly intend to build on off of it. Recipe Cup aims to create a community. We don't see ourselves as more like a startup. We see ourselves more as aligned with a grassroots movement. This is going to be a movement, a community of foodies, chefs, all alike. Kind of communicating in real time. Building conversations, building interesting conversations from across the world. And keeping things very simple here, right? We want to absolutely put the soul back into the food. I think that was my feeling when I first talked to that street vendor back in India, back on the streets of Bombay, that hey, what is it that you miss, right? I suddenly felt like we needed to put that soul back into the food at Recipe Cup. We believe certainly that delicious and wholesome meals, right, it should be accessible by anyone and everyone. I mean, food is no longer a commodity or a thing where someone cannot have access to it. What is pertinent and what is critical today is that a whole lot of people, have a whole lot of health issues because they do not have access to good, wholesome food. Food that actually nourishes your body, right? This is exactly the intent why home cooked, why home chefs. And I think we want to be the absolute torchbearers, of small batch, artisanal, home cooked cuisines, whipped up by some of our amazing home chefs. Since the beginning of our food journey, right, our drive had always been about uh, genuinely building up that good food practice, good food uh, you know um, access for people. And we are not going to just stop there. Neither we consider ourselves to be your average food delivery service. We want to be considered as the champions of your artisanal food, mouth watering delights that a whole lot of home chefs and home cooks today whip up in their kitchens. At Recipe Cup, we understand the meaning of quality food. Sometimes, and this quality food comes from the most unlikely of the sources, and that's where my home chefs, come in. I mean, you should certainly, talk to some of our home chefs at some point, and you would find out what I'm referring to. Um, this is the very reason that the platform is today open to a whole lot of home chefs, cloud kitchens, mom and pop restaurants, small family owned restaurants, because hey, we just ought to look for it. So yeah, that's how I'll end it.
Right, sir. So thank you so very much for your time today. It was
Sure.
pleasure talking to you, and I wish you
Same
all the
here.
success for all your
Same here.
future endeavors, sir.
Same
And
here.
thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Varsha. Thank you.